Hi, good morning and welcome back to Japan Soul Traveler. Today I want to talk about something different, which is not a travel diary nor a memory from my adventures in Japan, but it's something a little more cultural, so it can be part of cultural tips to travel to Japan. So today I'm going to talk about religion. You may think this is a very strange choice because maybe you think when I travel to Japan I don't need to know about religion, and I also don't care about it because I want to go and visit places and fill my eyes with wonders. So yes, but I think that religion is a very important part of that culture, not because Japanese people are extremely religious, the opposite. When you go there you feel like a sense of spirituality, and you will find a lot of different buildings and shrines and temples and a lot of religion-related monuments that in a way will force you to know about religion in Japan. So, for example, if you want to go to Kamakura and you will find a great Buddha in Kamakura, you will have to know what it's all about. And at the same time, if you want to visit, let's say, Meiji Jingu or Hosore-san, all these places require that you have a little knowledge about religion in Japan. So this very long introduction to say that religion can be interesting in Japan and can be very different, and so let's start. First of all, you have to remember that when we talk religion in Japan, we have to forget everything we know about religion, in the sense that our word, the Western word for religion, which is a Latin word, it's hardly translatable in Japanese. The Japanese term, which is shukyo, was introduced there very recently in the late 19th century. So all the things we refer to as religion in Japan, such as Buddhism and Shintoism and Taoism, they were not conceived as religion in Western way. This is the first thing to know when traveling there, because it implies a different relationship with Japan. It implies a different relationship with the spiritual dimension and what we consider religions. Our notion of religion is closely linked to Christianism. This implies the fact that you have to believe in one thing only, and you can be both Christian and Muslim. You have to choose. This is one character that you don't find in Japan. So again, while talking about religion, we should be very careful of the particular nuance that this word has in our own culture, and especially when we move to another culture like Japan. For a long time, Japan tend to use words such as way, path, in like Michi, or Shinto, the way of the kami, or Bukkyo. So it's a different approach to religion. It's an approach that tends to inclusion and syncretism and allow different philosophies and different sects to live together without the need for an exclusive belonging. So when we talk about religion in Japan, we usually tend to consider two main religions, which are Shinto and Buddhism. Shinto is considered the original religion of Japan. It's translated as the way of the kami. In a way, it's considered animism, which consecrate every aspect of life. Everything in life can be considered a kami. So, for example, a stone, a tree, a river, a mountain, everything in nature and in human world can be a kami. So Shinto has at the core this very spiritual approach to nature and to the human. With this I mean that human and supernatural being, human and kami, so human and gods, are not ontologically different, so they are not in two different levels. Like for example, Christianism, you have here the man and here the gods and the god. There is no possibility for the the man to become a god. On the other hand, in the Shinto tradition, you have a line onto which you can see the different aspects of nature. So you have maybe human, and then you have kami, and there is no difference. So maybe a man can become a kami after that. So this in a way brings together all nature and brings together all living beings in a way that is very different from the Western way of thinking. In the 6th century, Buddhism arrived to Japan from Korea. So this is the moment in which a very different tradition, a foreigner tradition, enter the country and in a way transform the religious life. So when Buddhism arrived here, you can see how it interacts with local beliefs and how it manages to enter the everyday life of Japanese people. For example, Buddhism never denied the power and the authority of ancient kami, and in a way it integrated it within its doctrine. So this relationship between Buddhism and Shintoism grew stronger, and all across Japanese history and all across Japanese culture you see the continuous dynamic interaction between Shinto tradition and maybe folklore and Buddhist element in a way that it's very hard to find in our own culture, because again we have different principles according to which you cannot be both, for example, Christian and Buddhist. You have to choose. Of course, Buddhism in Japan developed in an abundance of schools like Tendai school and Shingon, and later on the Amida school with Pure Land Buddhism, and so on until the more popular Nichiren school in late 12th, 13th, 14th century. This interaction continued strongly until the mid-19th century, when Japan decided to become a modern state, a more Western state. This because it started to face the Western cultures and the Western nation that were colonial nation. And Japan saw what happens to China with the Opium War and decided, no, I don't want that. So I have to become stronger, I have to embrace some aspects of Western culture, like technologies, like military, like schools, like everything that was considered modern in a way. And I have to maintain some very Japanese aspects, some very indigenous, some very original aspects of my culture. This is why again in late 19th century the Japanese government decided to clearly divide the religious element that were of Buddhist origin from the Shinto ones, and decided that everything that was Buddhist in a way was outlawed. Every element of the Japanese religion had to be Shinto, because Shinto was the original spirit of Japan. So in this moment we have the creation of what is state Shinto. It became the state religion until the end of the war, in which Japan declared defeat, and again freedom of religion was assured to everyone. This is to say that we now consider Shinto as the original spirit of Japan and the original religion of Japan and the inner and more genuine elements of their culture. But this can be also seen as a construction, as a sort of invention needed to reinforce a position against some Western conqueror. Of course, when you talk about Japanese spirituality and Japanese religion, you have to make a brief reference to Confucianism. Not because you will have a very developed or very popular Confucian school or religious sect there, but because in a way Confucianism entered Japanese society and culture in a very deep way, in the organization of the state, of the family, and in the relationship between family members. So, for example, the ancient family structure, which was the ie, was very hierarchic in a way. So you have the father, which is the main figure, and then you have the son, who has to respect the authority of the father and has to follow carefully the steps to allow the family to grow. So Confucianism is a very important element there, even if you won't find many Japanese schools or Japanese believer in Confucianism. So today Japan is a very interesting place to study religions, because in a way a lot of Japanese people declare to be atheist. They don't belong to any particular sect or school or religion at all. They follow some specific rituals. For example, funerals are extremely defined in a way because they're usually Buddhist. Or weddings, they can be Shinto weddings. Today we have also Catholic or Christian weddings. And the beginning of life is a Shinto beginning. So for me, that I study this field, and for anyone who can be interested in and find out more about this different tradition in Japan, it's interesting to see how a person can decide to begin his life as in a Shinto shrines and end it in a Buddhist temple, for example. Today there is another very interesting phenomenon, that it's the new religions or the new religions. This started to emerge in the late 20s, let's see, the beginning of the 20th century. There were a second wave of new religion, which are the new religions, that begins around the 70s of the 20th century. These are very specific and very particular kind of religions, because they are syncretic in that they originate from a founder, a very charismatic founder, usually a woman, which has spiritual powers, shamanic powers, and a lot of potential to attract people around them. And this religion tends to put together elements of very different traditions, such as Buddhism, such as Shinto, and also Christianism, for example. Soka Gakkai, for example, is one new religion, because it's from the late 20s, I don't recall exactly, but it's from the beginning of the 19th century. The new religion have a darker mood, in a way more individualistic mood, and they represent also the crisis that Japan went through in the 70s. So it's a very lonely way, in a way, to face religion. So in a way they are more individualistic, they are more based on destiny and fatalism. For example, the Aum Shinrikyo is one of the new religions. This group became famous, became popular because of the sarin attack in the Tokyo Underground in 1995, but there are plenty of this kind of groups that won't become terrorists, of course, that just propose a more individualistic and more closed, in a way, approach to the spirituality. So after this long talk about Japanese religions, you will probably understand anything, because I was very confused, and if so, I apologize. But in a way, I just wanted to give you a little hint of what you will find there. So when you plan a visit to, again, Mount Koya, or to Ise-Jingu or to Izumo, you will know a little bit more about there, and you maybe will have more references about what's going on in that places. So again, thanks for watching, and I talk to you soon.